Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II, World at War with our allied playthrough. In the last episode, we got India, UK, and China done all in one go. Very productive. Now we have to look at the massive front that is the USSR here in April 24th, 1942, where we are actually meeting the German offensive head on with a counter-offensive, and we will see whose lines will break first. Now, I've almost finished upgrading all the HQs on the front. There is no beating Zhukov at rating 9. I will go ahead and spend a hefty payment here to upgrade Timoshenko, 90 MPPs, to someone better. A lot of these HQs are reinforcements. We only really started with one, and a lot of them were reinforced, and their HQs were even worse with like rating 4. To be honest, for almost the entire playthrough, I haven't been paying enough attention to HQs. I only just learned last episode that they can manually be placed. I only just realized last episode, which is an episode or two after the fall of the HQ that was defending Corregidor, that when an HQ dies, you perma lose the general. And if you perma lose the general that way, like how I now have Montgomery, I just put him here in Greece, that general's gone for good. And I now just realized, after editing the last episode, that all those Japanese HQs I killed in China have suffered the same fate. I don't think we've really killed any German HQs or anything like that, or Italian ones. Well, we killed an Italian one down here in Ethiopia. I haven't thought to look at their ratings, because I just assumed that you could always get more generals. But when looking at the HQs of a country, I realized how, in fact, limited it is. And whereas there's usually more generals than there are total HQs, it looks like once you lose a general, he's gone forever. Now, I don't know if you can rebuild an HQ, but you're out of generals, if it will just give you some generic guy, or if you're done, if you're out of generals for good. I hope I never have to learn that. I could easily learn that if the Greek one died, or some colony. However, I'm going to operate under the assumption that when they're dead, they're dead. And once all the generals are dead, there's no more generals to maintain the HQ. I don't know how an HQ functions without a general, if it even can. I have no idea. But at the very least, I do know if it's a good general and you kill him, I don't think he's ever coming back. Because Wainwright was the name of the American general that died in the Philippines. He's gone forever. I don't see him anywhere here. So I'm going to assume we've done great work at neutering the command force of the Japanese, but I don't know if the AI really made sure that the front had their best generals. Probably not. Their best has probably yet to be deployed. I don't know. And I'll have to keep that in mind when I risk the safety of my HQs, and when I look at HQs as targets, I want to look at, if I can, what rating they are, to see especially how important it is to take them out other than in value of MPPs. Definitely. Because there's such a big part of the game that I still don't fully understand. I still don't understand how the ratings necessarily work or anything like that. However, I do know that it is important. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead. We're going to reinforce the first Red fighters here who had to run some escort operations. The Baltic fighters are going to take up their spot over here in the Baltics. We're going to send them into the forest right next to Riga, right next to the Kovalev HQ. I did realize with my bombers, I have 2 TAC bombers, one still coming in from the east, and one all the way down south here is a medium bomber. I realized, the more I look at everything here, the more I realize that without the ground attack upgrades, due to all the anti-air upgrades and all the fighter cover that the enemies have, my bombers would be basically useless. Maybe they could reduce some entrenchment if we get lucky. Maybe a kill or 2 here or there, but the money we'll spend on reinforcing our bombers is not going to make up for all the losses we'll suffer and have to replace. Bombers, fighters, these are all very expensive. What I need instead is a wall, basically, of fighter coverage and anti-air. Whereas the bombers, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to have them just stay up by the Baltic, stay up by here, and attack the German Navy, because that's what they're actually really going to be effective at. So I'm going to take the medium bombers here, and I'm going to start flying them. I'm not going to operate them just because it's so expensive, and I need everything I can get dedicated to the ground force right now. the enemy navy shows up here so infrequently that it's not a priority for me. I will take the subs, however, and we'll try and sail them out here to the Sweden-German convoy route here, which we haven't had them at in a while. But this is not the last we've seen of the enemy German navy showing up. We want to make sure the ships are in good condition, so we're going to upgrade this destroyer. Well, upgrade, we're going to reinforce it, as well as the Marat battleship. Get those back up to strength. The tactical bombers and all this stuff is just going to stay right over here in Estonia, where it can do some damage to the enemy German navy when it comes back around again. Now, I probably want the medium bombers most up front, but let's see. So the range here is 5 for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we'll put the tactical bombers up front here. We have also these ones. I know where they're going now. We'll send the TAC bombers up north. And we could use more fighters in the south, so this is where our 2 air forces coming from the east are going to split ways. We have 2 fighters up in the Baltics now. We have a little bit of a empty corridor right here that I'll probably fill in with this fighter, ideally, or have it fill in somewhere in south. We definitely need to get either more HQs or better HQs, and there's one more command and control upgrade we can go for. I have my eye on that for a potential research for this turn. However, we have a front to deal with. For now, let's reinforce the core at Odessa, which is actually maintaining. I don't think it's going anywhere. Out of all the defensive positions that came under attack, this one's not going anywhere. It's not dying and it's not having to retreat. The enemies did take Kiev, which, interestingly, as we can see here, is not marked as a national morale objective anymore. So we can see the national morale of the USSR is at 104. I think it was at about 106 last turn. Germans are at 100%. If I look at German national morale, they don't seem to have gained much of a buff if they gained anything from taking Kiev. USSR definitely lost some. Makes me think we might never actually get back the national morale we lost here. But so long as we keep slaughtering Germans on this front, it'll be fine. The USSR's national morale is the best out of all the allies, excluding China. So, shouldn't be that much of an issue. And with the Soviets, we can hopefully tear down the German national morale. Now we have the mechanized back here, which needs to reinforce so it can get back up to the front sooner rather than later. We do have an army here, the 7th Army, who I am going to get back up to strength. I want my human wall to be pushing at max strength, max efficiency, which we have, I believe, the MPPs to sustain, so long as we don't put MPPs in a bunch of other things. We don't have enough to get everyone to the front right now, but we don't need to, because we're still overwhelming them. The Germans are not able to keep up their offensive while also keeping their units up to snuff, and that is of large importance. Over at Minsk, the aptly named Frontier Corps, who had the job of just garrisoning the city after the armored panzer corps caused me to retreat the 3rd Army away, is now going to be met by a gigantic wall of Soviet troops. I will go ahead and, let's see here, we'll take this rifle corps and we'll move it up to the front. We will then take this corps and move it up just around the south side of Minsk. We will take the 3rd Corps and just go right past Minsk, trying to kind of get around. I don't think we can fully encircle this right now. No, not without force marching. Oh, even then, probably not. Which I don't want to do. If we're lucky, we can convince them to operate the corps out of here, so we can just take it. And if they don't, they're going to get surrounded, lose all their supply, and be ganked by a red wave of Soviets. So how else can I set this up? We can go ahead and move you northwest, move you northwest. We can send you around northwest. We'll do the same with you, because you're going to end up colliding with the Baltic front here, since the Pripyat marshes aren't really going to be much of a front. We'll take this corps and move it down south, just so it can push us down the railroad a little bit. The 11th Army here is going to move probably further west here, just to kind of help fill in the Baltic front, which is honestly pretty thin compared to what it could be. Let's see here. We can get the 2nd Corps moving up the rail line here. The Vladivostok Corps can move forward up to the enemy 11th Army. We'll take the 1st anti-air here and we'll move it forward just a bit. It can still guard the HQ while also guarding one dude on the front. It can't get much further without force marching, unfortunately, so it's going to be limited in what it can do. However, hopefully it will prove helpful. We really can't dislodge this enemy, at least not easily, without more armies at the front, because it's just, again, the Germans have superior technology to us. We don't have mobility, we don't have additional infantry weapons, so we have to take our wins where we can get them. One place where I believe we can get some good wins, especially today, will be on the Baltic front here. So there's some pretty juicy targets. I'm going to start by going after the Wodrig Corps here with my 5th tank unit, dealing 3 damage, I believe 2 or 3 damage with the tanks. Not the best, not the worst, that we took damage as well. We weren't supposed to take any damage. I will also take the first tanks here. Well, actually, first we'll take the 14th Army. We'll go ahead and send that after the enemy 10th Corps. We dealt 4 damage, took 1 damage. I think that went a little better than advertised. We're going to swap that up north because it's going to need a chance to repair. Put the light tanks in its position. Send forward the first mechanized and use that to try to deal with the enemy 10th Corps. The 10th Corps has now been wiped out. We did take 1 damage with the mechanized. However, hopefully, I didn't see a national morale bonus there. Maybe you don't get that for every unit. There's a lot of things in this game that I still don't claim to understand or know myself. Being in this forest should give us some good defensive bonuses if we refrain from pushing up any further, which we don't necessarily want to. The enemies do have a lot of units over here, and whereas this 4th Army is not really fully entrenched, I don't think I want to trade equal blows against it when it has additional reinforcements until we can get some reinforcements on our side. So I will go ahead and reinforce the 4th Army here. Maybe the mechanized will be a tempting target, but we do have it with a path to retreat, which will be quite handy. We're going to upgrade the Kovalev HQ to have anti-air defense now that it's up by this front. And then every HQ, not quite. The Zhukov HQ needs some more. Look how far north the Zhukov HQ can reach. Jesus Christ. Maybe that comes from the rating as well. I will upgrade that with anti-air defense. It seems like it's going to be capable of reaching as much stuff as it needs to up on the front. Just making sure that these units have it, because that's going to be vital due to the enemy air power and the fact that all I'm really going to be maintaining is fighter coverage. I'm not going to really be able to maintain any air assaults, but I wouldn't have the MPPs to maintain it. Let's go ahead and take the first tanks and send them after the enemy German paratroopers. Those are probably, with all their upgrades, way more importance than the nearby completely unupgraded Hungarian army. So let's attack that with the first tanks. We're supposed to trade 2 for 4. We attacked, we killed 3, we took 1. Not quite how I thought that was gonna go. And now they've retreated to a location where I kind of didn't expect them to retreat. Huh. Alright, well, fuck it, let's play risky. Our shock heavy tanks should be able to be rather, well, tanky. So I'm going to move them right up into this German front line, because the thing is, everything here is weak. Some of the Germans don't even have full upgrades. There's Hungarians and Italians here that are not very well off. There's cavalry here. They very much prioritize the push in Ukraine. They completely ignored the Pripyat marshes. Their tanks were mainly active in Minsk, and they are distracted with a lot of their panzers just elsewhere, and a lot of their quality armies elsewhere in places that are not even seeing success against them. So if I can be aggressive here, to be honest, I will. Let's take the light tanks and attack with them. Even though their odds aren't quite the greatest, we will still go ahead and attack. We've dealt 1 damage, we've taken 1. So that went exactly as the game advertised to me that it would. Since I don't expect to take a whole lot of a beating with the shock heavy tanks despite their position, I will go ahead and continue to attack the enemy paratroopers, dealing an additional 3 damage and taking 1 damage. I just want to make sure the shock took as little as is humanly possible, but this is going to be, by the looks of it, the best result that I can get here. We have the 5th tanks, which I believe are on the rails. Yes, they are. We'll take them, and we're going to move them up closer towards Riga, where they will be able to do some reinforcement or pushing at this hopefully weak front in the Baltics after the enemy finishes, hopefully panicking, after they see what I'm accomplishing. We'll take the armored train, move that forward to where this tank was, and press the attack on the Wodrig Corps. Not dealing any damage, nor taking any, and so not quite how I wanted that to go. We'll take this corps and attack the Wodrig Corps. Okay, not taking nor dealing, but we've at least pushed the Wodrig Corps back to Wilno. That's something. Due to the fact that Minsk was captured so recently, the supply here isn't honestly that great. I think most of the supply is coming from elsewhere, and since it's mostly encircled, the Frontier Corps is either going to be in a very bad situation soon, or it's going to be forced to retreat soon. We also may want to look at moving up our fighter coverage based on how this front is moving forward. So ideally somewhere with a lot of supply and a lot of coverage, but ideally somewhere near the AA and not at risk of being pushed up to. We'll just push it up a few hexes to the west here, and that should hopefully be good enough. Now I have a feeling down in the south we're going to have a lot less luck. This is where most of the elite German troops are and where most of their attention has gone to, yet they still have some of the other Axis forces here that we can hopefully utilize the weakness of to make some progress. We'll take the 5th Corps here, and we're going to move it up into the enemy zones of control over here. At the very least, making them panic due to cut supply lines and such will hopefully help our war effort as well, though overall, again, it's not really going to work out the greatest the way I am pushing. I can't push out of this farce and maintain that great of supply with this corps, but we can, again, hopefully make them panic. So I will go ahead and push forward. We can see the enemy HQ here. We can't see the rating or anything of this HQ. We know that it's back there. And we can see a lot of very elite German troops that are over here. Don't know that we're really going to be able to break through. Even our army doesn't stand that great of a chance against the enemy corps here. Even though this enemy corps is not even being attacked over a river here, I think. It might be. But it's at 6 strength. It has no entrenchment. You'd think we'd get better odds, but we're not. This front is supposed to be mostly defensive. There's a reason why I have mainly infantry bodies over here, whereas Baltics were supposed to be where we push, so that also kind of affects our efficiency and what we can accomplish. I'll go ahead and move this corps back to the city over here where it should be able to reinforce when we get a chance to reinforce it. And with that, we're going to need to send someone else up to the front line. Maybe I'm correct, maybe Kiev, we won't make a lot of progress, but we can sure distract them with the units we have up here. Therefore, it's important to make progress where we can. If we thin out the lines, we'll be able to continue to encircle them with our superior numbers and the fact that they're split off just between so many different fronts. And the weakest links are going to be down here, the Romanians and the Hungarians. So let's take the Rifle Corps sitting on Cherkasy and let's attack the First Army of Romania. We dealt 1 damage, we took 1. A little bit worse due to the die roll not really working in our favor over here. There's unfortunately not a lot of units over here that can serve as reinforcements either. We are definitely burning through our human capital at a higher rate. We'll move the Stalingrad Corps forward to the front here just to take up defensive positions and maybe absorb some German offensive, let's say. We will take the 4th Corps here and attack the First Army of Romania, dealing 2 damage, taking 2 damage, exactly as advertised. We will then swap in the Rifle Corps behind it, where we'll be able to get in another attack, dealing 1 damage, taking 2 damage. That went a little bit worse than advertised. I don't want to break entrenchments along this river to Kiev, but there's still another opportunity to attack here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this Rifle Corps back across the Dnieper and move the light tanks forward into Cherkasy, where they will be able to get an attack in, dealing 2 damage and taking none. Finally, a die roll going in our favor. Let's see if we can finish them off with the 5th Corps up here by Kiev that we just moved forward. And we did, 1 for 1, just as advertised. I'd say that went fairly well. Now, before I get carried away on the Soviet front, let's go ahead and actually get that command and control researching. We want to definitely pursue more research. That brings us down to 185, and I believe all of this is probably best spent on units for the time being. Now, I do see an opportunity down here in the south. I do see an opportunity. They have left this road open. I'm going to guess their units over here are minimal. They're trying very hard to maintain a front and maintain an offensive, and they have many units down here worried about Greece. If they are as spread thin as I think they are, we can definitely do some good work with our mechanized. If only I had known to research armored warfare earlier, we could do even extra great work. So let's take the risk. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And here we have a German HQ in the rear without a lot of defenses by it. So we're going to keep moving forward across the river in Romania. The Von Lieb HQ, a rating 7 general. Now I know to start looking at ratings. This has got to be a good one. This has got to be a good one. There's also a Romanian HQ over here. Holy crap. Okay. We're going to need to defend this offensive as I push it. And thankfully, we have cavalry that can kind of get that far. Even a corps. Okay, I'll want to be very careful what I'm doing right now. So let's see. We're going to take this corps and we'll push this up to defend the rear here. Because I don't want to attack and trade equal blows with this corps if I don't have to. If I could deal more damage somewhere else and hopefully make the AI freak out. Even if they do attack our rear, that's fine. I will send this mechanized down here towards the Romanian HQ. So I'm next to both of them. Now, the first mechanized that we sent, also known as the fourth mechanized, is going to go ahead and attack the Von Lieb HQ, dealing 3 damage and taking 1 damage, I believe, a little better, actually, than advertised. The Romanian HQ here is not as great, so we're going to focus on beating down the German one here. Getting another 3 damage in, taking no damage, still better than advertised. This is probably going to retreat, and we're probably not going to kill it. But that's a lot of damage to an upgraded HQ that will hopefully make it move away and stop supporting its units on the front. I wish I was analyzing HQs this well the entire game, but realistically, you know, I wasn't. Oh well, what are you going to do? Now we have to fill this front line back in. There's a couple ways to do that, I believe. Number one, we could look at maybe operating some units down there. We'll have to see where they can go and fill in. Okay. So I know we can fill in a unit down here. What unit should that be? We have armies galore over in the east here. And so it's probably most effective to get an army over there. So we're going to go ahead and probably operate. Actually, no, let me just hold that. Let me see what I can do with the units that are actually here. So we don't just operate units up to this front and have them get beat up. So this corps that moved off Kerch can actually make it here. So I'm going to go ahead and move that corps up. This cavalry certainly does not need to stay here. This cavalry can actually go ahead and reach the Romanian HQ and maybe further distract them. Okay, I think that's worth it. We'll ride past Odessa towards the Romanian HQ and get some attacks off on it as well, dealing 4 damage and taking 1. Another good die roll for us. We don't need this corps on Sevastopol. We just don't. It's not going to be needed because we're not going to lose it at this rate. So I'll end up moving the 17th Garrison back to where it was to take its position. I'll just run it back because it's so goddamn close already. And yeah, I don't expect it to fall like Kiev did, but even if it did, whatever losses we have to take in the Allies is fine. We're doing way better than we would be doing historically, so things are working out. Gonna definitely want to make sure we have air cover over here. So I'm gonna fly the Kiev fighters to this little corner of this peninsula over here, where it can now reach and protect everything out there. Good. Good. Even if it only runs a singular escort, that's fine. That will help us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How far can this go? Properties, paratroopers. It can go 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we place the paratroopers back here, we could maybe drop them into Romania and everything. Up here, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could place them way behind enemy lines on the front, but I don't want to get them slaughtered by the actual elite German troops. However, I think I will go ahead. I don't know how great our offensive is going to be, so this might also just be pointless. At the very least, I can just move them faster if I do this, theoretically. So I'll take the paratroopers and I'll move them here with the fighter cover, because we're going to get shot at as we do this, with the idea of preparing them. So we're going to prepare them, which thankfully we can do in the same turn. I don't know how long you actually need to prepare to do a jump, but the paratroopers can hopefully land back here and really also help fuck with these enemies. We have very few troops. No operated troops are going to be able to actually maintain this field. So I'm going to move the Mongolian Cavalry Corps. It's not actually Mongolian. It was just deployed by Mongolia. Actually, no, it might be Mongolian. Mongolia did contribute some troops to the USSR. We'll put that up by the river here. It is not a good unit to have here. It's a soft target, just like a garrison, meaning it can get fucked up real quickly. The whole point is to hopefully have the enemy Germans stay here and focus on a weaker, cheaper target, attacking across a river, instead of putting their units and putting their attention somewhere else more important. There's plenty of very useful western spots we can get those eastern armies off to. One of note is going to be right here in the Baltics behind the mechanized, so that if the mechanized does get beat up, well, we might not be able to retreat anymore, but we'll have an army ready to show up and just punch something in the face, which I think our human wave strategy is going to be of more import to me than anything else. Yeah, this is all just going to go into actually moving units around. We don't want to just prioritize one spot. We don't entirely have good spots for everything everywhere. We could definitely use some more armies up on this side. So we'll take this elite army and we'll put it right in front of these units. The anti-air is going to stay here even though it's on a front, because attacking across a river against an AA, even with a core, is stupid. And I'm hoping that maybe they do fall for that as a target. Like, oh, maybe I could do more damage here. The AI is very into doing as much damage as possible. We have one more army to deploy, and I feel as though we will need it around this region. So I will deploy it to this mine. It can hopefully be of use. Now over here we also have the ability to add elite reinforcements to the 1st Guard army, as well as to the 1st Guard's heavy tanks. Okay, so it's like the shock tanks we have in the north. 59 MPPs, but we have 2 more units that are very strong, that have elite, like, reinforcements. They have experience, and they're going to be able to head west next turn as well. The Moscow Corps is also able to deploy somewhere. I'm just not quite sure where I actually need a normal corps at the time being, since I don't really see many places to put it or the Narva Corps or army. This is an army here. Well, armies could be useful. I'm sure I could find somewhere to squeeze it in. Efficiency of where I squeeze it in aside, the tanks and everything here have this fine. All right, we can find a place to put it. We'll put it in this fortress here to secure some additional help on this line. The Moscow Corps can certainly find somewhere to go. Assuming the elite armies go to the south to reinforce that, we would want it somewhere in the middle where we are currently overrunning enemy positions. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So we'll go place it near the Baltics, but on... yeah, actually no, we'll put it right here west of Gomel. And then we can take this 12th garrison and send that to Moscow, because I don't want to leave Moscow unprotected regardless of the situation. We'll send the Murmansk garrison up to Tallinn for the time being, just to get it out of here and somewhere more useful. That leaves us with 17 MPPs, and there's not a whole lot we can do with that. The 3rd army here has recovered its men. It has not recovered readiness and morale. I'll just run it up to where it was so we can join in this push, since, again, the remaining army and etc. back here is going to be deployed probably to the southern front. We do have another mechanized and 2 more corps up here to deploy as well. I don't know if we're getting any more units for free. Okay, we'll get some rocket artillery, a ship, and some planes, strat bombers by the looks of it, or maybe it looks like actually a couple things. Medium. One of them is medium, I think. Nothing too important for where our research currently lies. We did add a little bit to research this turn, and we have pushed the front and spent a lot of MPPs in doing so, but I don't think the Germans are necessarily going to be able to counter anything that we're doing. That is it then for this turn. We have done, I believe, some very, very good work, and I can't wait to see how the Germans especially react to everything that's going on. The Pacific is not going to be as exciting now that we have actually defeated the force that was sent to attack Pearl Harbor, with I think only 1 light cruiser escaping. We'll have some island hopping beginning, but that's going to be a slow, tedious thing. Europe is where all the excitement is right now, with me focusing most of the UK's MPPs on Europe still, and with the Indians coming to Greece and all this other good stuff. I'm hoping to see Italy and Germany fall. Looks like they'll probably fall before Japan does. Just like history, I guess no matter what China does, they still can't deal with the Japanese Navy nor all the free things they get to do the island hopping. So Japan's gotta come last at this rate, I guess. Germany and Italy, I think, will be falling historically early. Maybe not Italy, because we're not invading Italy. I think they fall in, like, what, 43? So They might take a little bit longer, but Germany will certainly fall before 45 if our luck continues. We'll see. They may deliver a gut punch to me that I'm not expecting. Let me know what you think about the progress that is being made and how you think the war is going to go from this point onwards. For now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.